With Call of Dragons just being officially released, we will be starting a new series called From Zero to Hero. In this series, I will be guiding you through every single thing you should do in your account in order to maximize its growth, maximize your potential, and ensure you are as efficient and steady in your progress as possible. These tips work for both free to play and pay to win. So stick around as I will be breaking down everything you should be doing and everything you should not be doing in your journey in the land of Tamaris. What is going on, guys? MEOWER here, back with a brand new video. Global release has finally arrived, and with it, I will be guiding you through every single thing you need to do in this game in order to maximize your growth, maximize your account progress, and ensure you are as efficient as possible. Of course, if you like videos like this, feel free to like and subscribe because I will be making a full series called From Zero to Hero. And I'll see how many episodes it takes, but for now, this will be the first episode of it. Now, without further ado, let's get started. When starting out, I highly recommend you start with the Springwater faction. Now, the reason for this is that one, you start with Guanwin. Guanwin is an extremely good hero that will carry you through the early game because she is an archer. She has some really good peacekeeping talents and marksman because marksman is one of the best things you can use in the early game because they can carry you through most PvE content. And it's also really good for the Legion Speed March, so you can farm Mount Darklings faster and try to get as many Darkling kills as possible. You can also use the trick I shared in a previous video. I will link it in the comments down below. You should also use the Springwater faction up until City Hall 10. After City Hall 10, I highly recommend that you switch to that League of Order. The reason why you switch to League of Order is that you can start accumulating Warrior sculptures as well as rewards from the main questline tokens and for the overall gather speed, which is plus 10%. Now, gathering in this game is extremely important, not only because it gives you a lot of resources, but because of these talents that the gathering heroes have. These talents include Earth's Grace, Earth's Grace 2, and Earth's Grace 3. Now, what does this talent mean? This talent means is that when you finish gathering resources, you get up to 12,000 XP per day on a single commander, whether if it's the main or the secondary. And then when you upgrade it again, you get another 20,000, so that's up to 32,000 a day. And then after you max out, that's up to 52,000 XP a day from just gathering. Now I will be showing you a table right now, right on the screen right now, which my good friend KOGNAR made. So what does this table mean? First of all, we'll just read through the commentary he said, then I'll be dissecting it from my point of view. Okay, so first of all, he says one of the best sources of early game XP and late game XP is constant XP harvesting. The game currently has 4 heroes with the harvesting skill: Chakcha, Kella, Pan, and this, and of course there is Ordo, but he only has one of them. The talent trees have 3 nodes, circle in red, while Ordo has only one, allowing you to generate 52,000 XP a day, while Ordo only has access to 12,000 a day. From level 2, you can grab the first talent, and assuming you make a beeline for the rest, which you can see in this infographic on it, on the right side of the screen, you'll notice that it shows these 3 with the red dots, and while Ordo only has one in the foundation talents. Now, the way the talents work, the primary imparts their effects on the secondary. So by using a non-harvester deputy with a primary harvester, you can still gain the XP effects. So what does that mean? If you maximize your XP on a single harvesting commander, then you pair it with another commander, both commanders get up to 52,000 a day. Assuming you utilize either gold or wood, based on this table, you only need to gather around almost a million to maximize the XP of each commander, Or whether in the early game you only need to finish one level 2 node to finish it up, assuming you finish the first Earth's Grace talent. Now, neither hero max yet of the pool get the entirety of 58,000 divided across both of them. They're divided equally. While one of them hits the cap, the rest of the XP goes straight to the secondary one. While if only one hits the cap, the rest is wasted pretty much, unless you have a deputy. While the rest one is when the pool is divided in half, only the gathering hero does not gain XP while the secondary does. So in short, you should always, always, always be gathering as much resources as possible in order to maximize your XP, because the more XP you have, the higher level your commanders. The higher level your commanders, the faster you'll be able to progress in the game and be able to do everything else, which we will be covering as we go on, especially the Dragon Trail. After you are done with gathering, the next thing you should always focus on is the Dragon Trail. The reason why you should always maximize the Dragon Trail, get as high stars as possible, and never delay your progress, especially in the early game. You might even go as far as spamming quick loot 3 times a day at every reset, is for three main reasons. One, for prestige, which will be used in the policy system, which I will be covering next after this segment. Second of all, Dragon Glass, which will help you get tokens in the Dragon's Trail store, which you can either use to maximize your Guanwin or Waldir or Bakar or whatever, or you can use it for Indus, which I highly recommend. You should always get Indus as much as possible unless you get her up, because she is a very solid hero, not only for gathering, but for support. But in order to maximize her potential, she needs to be awakened. That's why it's going to take you a really long time in order to awaken her, because after you finish up the Dragon Trail, you average around 40,000 Dragon Glass a day, which should net you just enough in order to get at least one or two tokens of her a day. And last of all, for the XP books, the more XP you have, as we just said, the better your account progress will be in order to level up your commanders further. Now, building up on what we just said, the policy system. Now, the policy system is one of the more unique things in Call of Dragons, right? Because you get some passive buffs, some really good buffs, and some meh buffs. What you should always be focusing on is military expansion, and military expansion. Now, here's why. The higher your military expansion, the bigger your troop capacity you'll be able to launch. The more troop capacity you'll be able to launch, the better and easier the game will be in terms of whether if it's PvP or PvE. Second of all, which you should be focusing on is target tactics, war studies, and artifact expertise. I would argue that war studies is more important than the other two, just to get more XP from farming donklings for a total of extra, I think that's 12.5% XP, which adds up pretty well. Second, you should maybe grab peacekeeping damage, or you can just grab that extra arcane chance in order to double sometimes your arcane dust, which I will be covering later on, whether if it's in this part or the next part. Now, you might ask yourself, should you go for free healing or resource healing? My personal recommendation, based on experience and based on the experience of others in my server, free healing is the way. You should never go for resource healing. Never, ever, ever. There is just no reason to go for resource healing. Because even if you're a big whale, you won't be able to sustain it in the long term, because resource healing just gets way too expensive. And it just does not pay for itself that much. While free healing is really passive, it's really good. It goes all the way up to 2 million a day, which how much more troops do you need than 2 million a day? And well, it just adds up pretty well, and just over time, you're gonna outlast the guy using resource healing, because no one's just gonna keep spending through a billion resources a day just healing, healing, healing. Well, just free resources. Free healing exists, you know. So never go for resource healing. It's just not worth it right now, unless the developers make it cheaper to heal troops. And last but not least, the barricades. Barricades are really important, but I do not recommend you focusing on them in the early game while you're learning the ropes. But in the more advanced videos, I will teach you the best way to utilize barricades. And last but not least, the resource gathering and the resource production. I would say just go for the resource gathering. Ignore the low capacity. Maybe get it later, but it's not a priority. So your priority in the policy tree should be getting military expansion 3 as soon as possible, getting it all the way up, then 2, then 1, and then go focus on war studies, focus on the peacekeeping damage, and then spread between healing and arcane dust. So if you are approaching a war, I would say abandon all the PvE aspects and just go all the way to resource healing. I mean free healing, sorry. Free healing in the end of the tree here to maximize 80,000 extra and 4% extra. I will be breaking down the exact math behind resource healing versus free healing, also by using a spreadsheet my good friend KOGNAR has made, but that will be in the second part or in the video all in its own. Next up, you should always try to get any resource related things in the goblin market. The goblin market is one of the best things you can use to grow your account because it's segmented into two areas. One, which is the normal store, which you can buy stuff for either resources or gems. I do not recommend getting anything on gems in terms of speed ups unless it's 70% and above. Sometimes you might get an 80% discount, but that is really rare. That's why you should always get 70% or higher. I don't recommend buying any resources from the gem using gems. I only recommend speed ups, which whether if it's generic, healing, building, or training. I never recommend getting any of these buffs for gems, though I do recommend getting the enhanced gathering and ore boost for resources. And I do not recommend getting any of these lucky medals for gems, but you might grab a key or two if it's at 50% or higher. And of course, the medals are always super important. Hero talents are decent, but I don't recommend it that much unless you feel like you really need it. And well, I also do not recommend refreshing it past the free part unless you're a huge whale and just don't care. The second part of the Goblin market is the exchange. So how does this exchange work? Any tokens you have of commanders you've already maxed out, I recommend exchanging. As for the artifacts, I do not recommend exchanging them at all. At least not in the early game. Maybe later on when your account is fully maxed out, you could start exchanging them. But I will go through the artifacts more in depth in a separate video because they deserve a video all on their own. But in just a general rule of thumb, do not exchange any commanders unless you have awakened them. So I just exchanged. I forgot what the commander was, but I just exchanged them because I've already have them awakened. So if I have them awakened, I have no reason to save those tokens. I can just exchange their tokens, get some hero coins, and eventually get a gold key or two. I only recommend getting gold keys. I don't recommend getting anything else out of this list. Maybe some epic hero tokens, but after you've awakened all your epic heroes, it just doesn't matter anymore. So just invest in gold keys. And yeah, I think that's enough for the first part of Zero to Hero. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you have any certain things you want me to explain in this series, like as a priority for the second part, please feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, like it, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Meow meow.